Welcome in, episode number 25 of the St0ner Sports Radio podcast. We will go over the sports book. Hot Rod joining us again today. We will go and talk about Rudy Golbert and the conflict in the Minnesota locker room. We will preview the NBA playoffs. We will give you our Masters recap. How did my picks end up? You know what? Not terrible, but not great. We'll talk about OBJ signing his $18 million one-year deal with the Ravens, and we'll give you our locks of the week and sports beefs. We'll give you top 10 list, re-rank, and add whatever we feel like. Joining me again today is the man, the myth, the legend, the one at Hot Rodacy on Twitter. Hot Rod, how are we doing today, brother?
I'm doing very good. Appreciate you having me on again. Hello, world.
Well, appreciate you being here, brother. So let's just get into this, right? So we're gonna go over the sports book. We'll just jump right into it here. So on your first debut here, you got out to a hot start here, 3-2. Could have been better, could have been worse, right? I mean, this is one of those things where the ones that you missed on were not super duper terrible. You had the Sea Dragons beating the Arlington Renegades. That one came through with the Sea Dragons getting the job done over the Renegades by 9, 24-15. The spread on that was Sea Dragons -5, so that one easily covered. And then we moved on to the NBA at Minnesota and the Lakers, and Lakers take care of business by 12. Spread on that was a 1.5, so just absolutely destroyed the Timberwolves there and got that one in there. And then you had the Denver and Phoenix combined 236.5 points. That one did not come through, as the total was 193, as the final on that was Suns 100, Nuggets 93, as Phoenix gets the win there. Memphis -5 against the Clippers. That one also came through for you, I believe. Let's look here. I believe it did. Clippers. It did not. It did not come through for you. As the it did. As the Grizzlies win by 14, 108-94. Spread on that was Memphis -5. Memphis had won previous home matchups. They were on a streak there, so we rode that one, and you got that one done. And then MLB wise, this was where it kind of took a hurt, as the Mariners were playing the Guardians, and the Guardians just whooped them 9-4. Mariners were a 1.5 favorite there. I took the Sea Dragons as well. Boom, it hit. I took the Lakers. Boom, it hit. Denver +10. I took that one, and it hit, as they only lost by 7. So that one hit, as they were 10-point underdogs. I took Memphis -5. That one hit. And I took the Dodgers -1.5. That one did not hit, as the Diamondbacks get the upset victory 2-1 over the Dodgers. So I went 4-1. Hot Rod goes 3-2 to start. So not bad, but that is our sports book recap. We will get into our picks this week here in just a few moments, but let's go ahead and jump into our first topic of the day. Rudy Golbert, punching teammate, getting thrown back into the locker room, and then to make matters worse, Jaden McDaniels breaks his hand punching a wall, and right now Minnesota just flailing as they look to try to take on the Lakers in the first round of the play-in game. Good news for the Lakers for sure that dysfunction is going on. What were your thoughts on Rudy Golbert, as Draymond Green kind of capitalized on this, as whenever he was getting into it on the bench with one of his teammates earlier this year, Rudy Golbert tweeted out, "Oh, insecurity, is very apparent." When you see things like this, and Draymond Green fired back after seeing that, saying, "Oh, insecurity is really, apparent when you see it." Just, copying his tweet and posting it and trying to stir up a little bit of stuff for his podcast. Give me your thoughts.
I feel like there's a lot of frustration boiling over there, and they make that move to bring in Gobert. It doesn't seem like it's worked out as well. That team, I think, had higher expectations, even though anytime I see a Minnesota Timberwolves team, I'm expecting little. That Rudy Gobert and getting in a fist fight with your teammates, I just don't understand at all. Like fighting another team, maybe somehow we could sit here and justify when it's right. You're being an enforcer or protecting your dude, but your own team and fighting, it's just like there's just I think a lot of emotion going on. There's a lot of money at stake. Obviously, these dudes got a lot of testosterone flowing, but at the same time, I mean, it never seems acceptable. I cannot put myself into really any situations where I would punch, maybe get in an argument, pushing match, maybe, but like your own teammate, it just seems to me like I don't know. And that team, I think, is just dealing with a lot of frustration. They thought things would be different, and the team is going the wrong direction at the wrong time. I just think it's maybe more about that team situation and dynamic than whatever interpersonal conflict they've got.
Yeah, I really think you summed it up pretty well there. I think that's exactly how most people would view that situation. Just lots of dysfunction, and especially for the position that they're in, with the playing game against the Lakers. I mean, this is not going to put you in the right mindset to take on what is going to be, in my opinion, a Lakers team that is trying to prove that they are supposed to be in the playoffs and looking to try to get themselves into a series, and give somebody a really tough out. Um, but I mean, I think this is a good conversation starter, right? Is this beef? Yeah, I'd say it's beef. But you know what also is beef? Gilbert Arenas bringing guns into a locker room. That's beef.
Real beef.
There's been plenty of situations where locker room altercations have happened and teams have been okay, right? I mean, it's also one of those things where it's like it could be nothing, it could be something. Now, obviously, Rudy Gobert tweeted out his apologies to the team and his teammates, and we're like, don't make this something bigger than it is. But we know how the media works. We're gonna talk about this, up into tip off, tomorrow night. So I'm not gonna think that the conversation is gonna be stopping anytime soon, about this particular situation, just because right now that's kind of the only thing going on. We have this break, before the play-in games start. MLB is still kind of in its infancy. We're not really getting into really much controversy there. I mean, the Masters is over now, so not really anything going on in the golf realm. College basketball over. I mean, we have this lull, so I think this is kind of the lead story, just because we have really nothing else to talk about until Thursday. Um, so let's go ahead, and I found this list of top 5 sports beefs, according to Fox Sports. So I mean, take it as you will. This article, I believe, is from 2021, so it's a little dated. Um, but I think that these are decent ones, and you'll probably have some more input on this first one because I don't really watch wrestling. I'm not a wrestling guy. I'm not a UFC guy. I'm really not. I mean, I think that, and this is where the UFC fans can come for me. I think UFC is toxic masculinity in a controlled environment, along with a little bit of homosexuality. I mean, it's got a kind of got a combo there going on. I've never been able to bring myself to be like, yeah, I really want to see two guys just beat up on each other. But I know that's like the second most popular sport other than the NFL. So I mean, I kind of feel on the outside looking in on that perspective, but I'm not gonna have much input on this first one. So give me your takes on their number 5, which is Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Vince McMahon. Now, the reason they said this is, uh, you have the scene of Vince McMahon in the hospital with Stone Cold Steve Austin dressed as a nurse, beating the hell out of him. You know,
Was that a real beef? I mean, I thought that was
yeah.
all
See,
just scripted,
yeah. Go
though.
ahead. Give me.
I mean, so that's a question. Is like, is this beef real? Like, is there more to it? I watched a lot of wrestling and followed a lot of the dirt sheets and stuff behind the scenes. I don't know that that beef was entirely real. Um, I mean, Stone Cold Steve Austin ripping him out of an ambulance and shit, like that wasn't real. So I'm not sure about that one being on there. Was it a really hot and intense sports beef? Absolutely. Um, I mean, and I guess I just more want to ask, like, you never played gay chicken? You know, the homosexuality of wrestling. You never see how close you can get. You know, you try
Uh,
to
No, when
see
I
how
do
close.
something, I go the full measure. Okay, if we're gonna do something, we're gonna lean in the whole way.
Right.
Okay.
That's fair. I mean, and they wear the scantily outfits, so there's less stuff you can grab, right?
Yeah, yeah. I
There's
mean, it makes sense. It's just from my from some people's perspective, it's like, hey, I mean, well, we're
it's
gay. Like,
homoerotic. I mean,
yeah, it is. It is.
you gotta be comfortable with yourself to be out there dressed
Oh
like that
yeah.
too, right?
Well, and
I
it's
don't
like
know.
you wouldn't want to pick a fight with a UFC guy. Like I mean, we know that like what they do for a living is probably the most violent sport, if not if not the second most violent sport out there. The only one I can think of that's probably more violent is probably you know uh,
Hockey, maybe?
what? Yeah, hockey. Yeah, I mean,
Hockey.
yeah. I mean, that's that. Yeah, that's pretty violent. I would say that's a. I mean, Australian style football. I don't know, rugby maybe. I mean, it's up there. You've got
Rugby.
tons of injuries that can leave your brain debilitated and whatnot. So I mean, it's not for the weak minded and weak physically. So I mean, I respect it, but I think I agree. I think this one is probably some manufactured beef here, but definitely iconic. You can't deny that.
Yeah,
Um,
the high profile of it, and I mean, I guess my other commentary and a grand general commentary for anyone that doesn't know me or like UFC and stuff. UFC is a really weird dichotomy, right? Because it is the gladiator sport of sports right now, but it's not really. Like, you can't headbutt, you can't do what they call 12 to 6 elbows, you can't do nut shots. I think you're allowed to pinch, but you can't bite. And so, like, that's not real fighting, right? Like, you have limitations. If you just take a real fucking savage dude or woman, anybody, and put them into a cage and tell them to fight, they have to program and learn this stuff, right? So that they don't kill people. So the rules, the reasons for it make sense. The head is the hardest part of the body. You can break somebody's nose, kill them instantly. Don't let them do that. We don't want to see them die. But fans do want to see them die. And so there's some Japanese martial arts and shit out there where all this stuff is legal, and head stomps, like, you can't stomp a dude's head while they're down. In this Japanese martial arts promotion, you can. So I guess my love hate with UFC is, like, it's not real fighting, but it's the realest at this level that's attracting, like, athletes away from other sports. I mean, there's obviously NFL people, a couple of WWE guys, Lesnar and CM Punk tried his hands at it. Bobby Lashley, like, there is some real athletes in it, but it's, I mean, if yeah, like, it's hard because it's not blood sport. It's not
yeah.
truly actually, you know, what people want to see, which is hand to hand
What
combat,
I mean,
death,
what's
right?
your opinion on bringing back gladiator-esque fighting with like death row inmates or something? I mean, like pay-per-view death row
Yeah.
inmates. Bring bring the swords back, bring everything back. I mean, I feel like you could double the pay-per-view cost for something like that, and people would easily stomp it up. Now the only problem you have is 8% of people on death row are innocent. But I mean, hey, I mean, you give and take. I mean, it's the entertainment business, baby. I mean,
Right.
I mean,
That's just motivation, right?
I mean, I want to see
I'm
my
innocent.
I want to see my tax dollars really at work here. I mean, I'm down with even putting like a mech style battle bots aspect against a human out there. I mean, why not? I mean, I just feel like we're to the point where we need to accept some of these things. I mean, you really want to spend the rest of your life in a cell, or you want to be in a coliseum with 100,000 screaming people while you're trying to rip somebody else's head off? I mean, I'm all for it. I feel like it's one of those things that we've distanced ourselves from. Just, oh, we're not savages. I'm like, yeah, but I mean, we got like the most incarcerated people per capita. I think we need to do something about this. Let's get these numbers down, and let's bring somebody to the ranks of a superstar gladiator aspect. I mean, I mean, not that it will make people want to commit crimes per se, because I don't think anybody wants to, be thrown out in the ring where they could possibly die. But I mean, it's like, I feel I feel like, some of these psychopaths and stuff. I mean, bring it on. I really would like to. I mean, if you're doing nothing but push-ups and sit-ups in your cell all day anyway, might as well put that to the test, right? I mean, I mean,
Yeah. Call me
uh,
for the podcast when we discuss this more, because I mean, there's a couple of different elements to it, and the whole thing is like a lot of criminals and stuff go into it because there's some kind of desire for attention, right? There's some narcissism.
mhm.
Giving them that promotion and celebrity probably would motivate a lot of them in ways, but then yeah, like their lives are basically in a spot where it's like, give them the choice. You either stay in this, concrete cell and die, or you get out there, you do a little bit of stuff, people are cheering for you. I'm sure they're sending you money on your commissary books. Your life is basically rewarding you for your terrible traits. I definitely, and I mean, and then there's just grand place, not grand, but there's just generally places in life that people, you hear the stories about, they try to do sports, they try to do this to better their lives, to get out of their current environments. It's like one more way of doing that. And I mean, blood sport and people dying will always probably have a lot of resistance. People don't want that on TV for kids to see it. And there's all sorts of other stuff that, I mean, we could easily make plans
Yeah.
for how we could get
You don't want to
around it.
go out like a pussy with a lethal injection. I mean, come on, you fucking pussy. I mean, at least give myself a chance to live another week. I want one more meatloaf week here at the jail. Just so I can. I agree. I think people would. There's always gonna be resistance to that, but I feel like we're just wasting people's time here. I mean, like get it over with, shuttle them out there. I mean, obviously, the law of like not being able to make money like as a prisoner or anything like that off of like books and stuff. I think you could still have that, but I mean, sports betting. I mean, you wouldn't want to bet on some psycho out there. I mean, it has its benefits, you know. But anyways. So moving on to number 4 here on this sports beef list here, they have Baker Mayfield versus Hugh Jackson as number 4 here. Now this was now
Fine.
I don't know. I mean, it says all time. Yeah, I mean Charlotte Wilder. I love you, Charlotte. You may have missed this one, but I mean, the reason why she says here is she says it's not the flashiest beef of all time, but it's one of her favorites because she's putting her own spin on that. She says mostly because anything involving the Browns' failures delights me. So she just hates the Browns. Um, um,
But it was really Hugh Jackson's failure, because that was some of the best years the Browns have had recently. And Baker Mayfield ended up still a starter there after Hugh Jackson. So, I mean, if there's a winner or loser to that beef, I'd say it's definitely Hugh Jackson there. But,
yeah,
I
because I
hate
mean,
Baker Mayfield. So,
because the
I,
big thing about this was Hugh Jackson blaming Baker Mayfield for him getting fired. That was the big
uh,
thing was oh, Baker's poor performance is why Cleveland canned me. That was the storyline, and you got to think. I mean, the Bengals lose to them in the first round of the playoffs, and Cleveland gets a playoff win that year. So I mean, it was a kind of, I think that's one of the more interesting. It's not, as she said, not flashy, but I understand it. I just wouldn't put it in my top 5. Um, I think that it. I think that she had a little bit of fun with this list, and I think that was kind of her personal uh, number 4. Now she has 2 number 4s. So it was that one, and the other one is Robin Lopez versus NBA mascots. Now NBA mascots picking on Robin Lopez is funny. The clip they chose was the Orlando mascot holding up a sign that said "Hey Robin," as he's at half court, staring at this mascot, and the sign underneath says "Smile if you farted." And then they take the signs and they start beating each other with them. He's got a scene where he suplexes the Kings mascot. I mean, he's been in some altercations here with these mascots. I don't know about top 5 all-time beefs. I mean, I didn't know about this before I saw this list because I feel like it's such a small part. Um, I don't know what your thoughts are on Robin Lopez versus NBA mascots as a top 5 beef all time.
So yeah, the first thing that comes to my mind is, wasn't it Addison Russell, right? Like he is it somebody hit a mascot, a baseball player, just fucking hit him with a bat. Like there was a couple of things that happened. I don't know, was it Randall? I'm looking quickly through a Google search here, and it's like Pirates first baseman Randall Simon hit one of the Brewers racing sausages with a bat as they went down, like during one of the mascot races. I'm like, that's something I remember. I can't obviously remember who did it, but yeah, Addison Russell hit the Diamondbacks mascot with a bat, and so it's like I remember those. And then Simon got called the sausage beater. All of that's much more like burned in my brain than the Robin Lopez mascot
The
beef.
old
So,
youth pastor line. Don't be a sausage beater. Yeah, yeah.
uh, I mean, yeah, I mean, I love it. I think it's a great choice, but I'm just saying in that same angle, this is more prevalent. Like I don't know why, maybe I just don't remember Robin Lopez's beef that well, but I don't know, the vision of Randall of sign, like I think that was a big thing because the guy actually got hurt too. It was kind of like, I'm trying to find video or something. I can't real quick on the fly here, but that's some homework for everybody. Just go look out Randall Simon smacking the old sausage as he runs by, and it's crazy because it's not just like pregame joking around, haha, we're on the field before the game.
No, he was
This
angry.
is
Yeah.
like, well, it was seventh inning stretch or something too, where all the fans are watching it and it's on the big screen, and one of the sausages just fucking drops. And so I shouldn't be laughing because it's malice. I mean, he I don't think he was doing it to be super funny. He was kind of looking angry, but uh that I mean, yeah, like Robin Lopez, I completely missed this beef, so I need to go do that research on that. But
Um,
yeah.
yeah, but I think mascots and athletes getting into it, never a bad time. Um, so again, there's kind of like two per. It looks like number here, so technically 10. I didn't see two number fives though. I just saw the one number five up here. So I think she just did two for each of them, except for number five, which was the Stone Cold Steve Austin one. So fairness, I guess. I mean, but so let's go to number three here. The first number three here is Pedro Martinez versus Don Zimmer. Um, now,
Yes.
Don Zimmer charged Manny Ramirez in the 2003 ALCS, and Pedro jumped in and threw Zimmer to the ground. I forgot about this, but I guess in Pedro's book, he says, all I did was help him fall faster. Um, and, you know, he's,
Oh
I
my
mean,
goodness. I'm trying to look all this stuff up because it's like some of this I remember, but didn't Don Zimmer get into a fight with a fan too? Wasn't that the story that like Kansas City Royal fans fucking beat him almost to death?
that I don't know. I mean, because the thing is she
I'm
posted videos in this article of most of these altercations. Um, I'll go ahead and just send it to you real quick so you can.
just that. I didn't do my homework here, but I'm trying to find, because I mean what I'm trying to do, I guess, is just like in a law, character witness here, is say if this was Don Zimmer that I'm thinking of, he had a couple of issues with people. Um, and I don't know if it was Don Zimmer. I might be getting it confused. There was somebody. It was like an assistant coach of a baseball team had real fucking situation with the Kansas City Royals. Like during a game, they came on the field and Royals fans like punched them.
It's not letting me
Royals
copy the link.
fan,
Why is it not?
Royals fans, white baseball coach. Am I remembering this wrong? My memory's always kind of like, oh, it was Tom Gamboa. Father and son brutally attack the Royals coach. I thought Don Zimmer, because they both have old men, weird faces. Get blurred in my head. Two crazed shirtless fans jumped the short fence and charged the field for some unexplained reason. So, never mind. It
Well,
was getting off.
ignore me trying to send you a link because the videos are not of the altercation; it's of their discussion about them. So I'm not going to worry about
Ah,
that. Um,
yeah,
but yeah,
yeah,
that was one that I mean I can see why you would bring that one up. But I feel like, is it beef though? Is it really beef, or is it just an instance where it seemed like beef? I mean, I guess it was really the
yeah.
trash talk afterwards that really kind of solidified that as kind of a beef. Um, the second number three is Syracuse head coach Jim Boeheim and the city of Greensboro, because the Syracuse Orange kept losing in Greensboro in the
In
tournament,
the ACC tournament.
and
Yep.
when they joined the ACC, and when it moved from Greensboro to Brooklyn, the ACC tournament, um, Jim Boeheim came out and said, "Well, there's no value in playing in Greensboro." And of course, the city of Greensboro fired back on Twitter saying, "I guess you can lose in the first round anywhere. At least it's a quick ride home in Brooklyn than it is in Greensboro." Um, Makes sense. At the time, Syracuse had not won a single game in the ACC tournament at the time, um, so it was not a great time for Orangemen faithful when they jumped into the ACC. Your thoughts on this one? I feel like it's a decent. I don't know about number three, but it's a decent one.
I love this. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of similar. Like the Big Ten did a similar conference championship. Like they talked about moving it because of like adding Rutgers. They thought that they would start having them in New York City or something like that. And it's like no, because the Big East and the ACC and like they're all moved there for ratings purposes, right? Like or
Hmm.
ticket sales or some kind of bigger market. And like that's where Greensboro kind of gets screwed is because they've been traditionally parts of all this, back to the wrestling stuff. Like all these places are big parts of other Southern wrestling history. Like, and it's like Brooklyn has stuff, New York has stuff going on all the time. Even like Columbus, Ohio is not that big of a town, but like they had women's and men's March Madness going on, and I was on campus and I couldn't even fucking tell. You know what I mean? Like the traffic and stuff doesn't even blink at it. You put that kind of stuff in Greensboro or towns like that, they revolve around it. Their whole, you know what I mean? Like I feel like it's got a better feel to play in those places. But yeah, Bayheim, I don't know exactly what his comments like. Maybe they were misintended. It's just like there's no value there from a marketing perspective. You know what I mean? Maybe he had some kind of tangible thing, and he wasn't really just throwing shade. But this beef is a little bit more in the social media heyday than the other were, and so I feel like that's also a key element here is how that gets magnified and they become a little better or more noteworthy because they'll go viral. We'll see it more and burn in our brain a little bit more too. But
Yeah,
yeah, I love this one.
yeah, and like you're saying, like for instance, my biggest example is the Oklahoma versus Oklahoma State football game. Right, they're getting rid of that as OU is moving to the SEC, and towns like Stillwater, which are not huge, they rely on a lot of that foot traffic for that weekend for those local
Exactly.
businesses and stuff to really make ends meet. And when you take something like that out of the possibility of happening again, you really affect those local businesses. Like you said, a town like Greensboro or something, like they really thrive and they really want that to be there because it brings a lot of that traffic and people like that. So I can see why it would have a negative effect in that light. But as you said, I like the beef. I think that this, as you said, social media, the Twitter comeback from Greensboro. Well, I guess you can just lose in the first round and just walk home then. I mean, I love it. I love it, and I don't know if it's top five for me, but it would definitely make a list somewhere. Um,
Mhm.
but it's just not something that I remember vividly as like, oh yeah, like remember that time, and now we're getting
Yeah,
into the stuff that people can kind of. This is more of the mainstream beef that we're getting into with this next one. The first number two on the list, Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant, right? And obviously this season huge because the Clippers will be playing the Suns in the first round of the NBA playoffs. So we might get this matchup not with the teams that we would have preferred, because I think having the Thunder play the Warriors would have been a lot more of a storyline if they were still with those teams than it is with the Clippers and Suns. Um, But this is still, in every respects, a great matchup between these two teams. Um, but when KD went to Golden State and left um, after the Thunder had blown that 3-1 series lead to Golden State, and technically, literally turned the ball over 4 times in the last 2 minutes with the lead against them in Game 7 to kind of screw themselves. In my mind, as an Oklahoma City Thunder fan, I was not thinking, oh, Kevin Durant's going to leave, because from my perspective, it was like you were this close to getting back to the finals for the second time since 2012. Um, I didn't feel like he was going to, let that go. Now, obviously, choosing Golden State as the team you go to was an extra punch in the nads to everybody that was, supporting of him locally, because it was like you didn't just leave to go play for like the Wizards or something like that. You literally left to join a team that was already better than
Mhm.
most of the league at the time. So it kind of stung, and obviously Russell Westbrook felt abandoned because then he has to carry this team by himself because the Thunder were not prepared, so they didn't have like a backup plan. There was no as good as Sam Presti is as a GM, he did not foresee this coming, and I mean he was in the same boat as just casual fans, which is very unusual for a GM to be out of the loop, to that extent. But um, and Katie even said, I stayed up all night, weighing my options, and I woke up one morning and just said, I want to go to California. I think I'm done being here in Oklahoma City, and he's a very emotional guy. We know stuff like this, talk like this gets under his skin. He's very active on social media. He likes to interact with the trolls, so he knew kind of what he was getting himself into. What are your thoughts on this one being a number two? I think it deserves a number two because I think this is kind of the most recent logical sports beef.
Yeah, I'm trying to like in my head, think about this last, same situation where he moved from the Nets, right? Like the Suns aren't defending champions, but they are definitely one of the better teams in the league. And so for him to go there, it's like I don't see the same kind of hate, right? Like there is not any of the same kind of like harsh emotions where it's just like, yeah, everybody wanted out of the Brooklyn for whatever reason, and that team's in the playoffs. I don't know if they're running from something in the East. Are they trying to get out of Giannis's? Like I don't understand some of the changes, but like
I think it was
that
because of
hate is not
Kyrie. I
there.
think it was because
Yeah.
he knew that those three guys would never be on the court together, and that it was kind of just over. James Harden left to go to Philly, and I think
Mhm.
that was the domino that made Kevin Durant go, well, if he's gonna fucking leave, then I'm fucking leaving. I mean, like, fuck this place, And Kyrie's over here like, oh, Holocaust didn't happen, What I mean, and he's like, yeah, I got to get away from this dumpster fire. I mean, it was just, I think that's what it was. So I don't think anybody was like, oh, fuck Kevin Durant, for leaving Brooklyn. Yeah, so I kind of agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, based on what you're saying, how he screwed them, and I mean, didn't Paul George kind of screw the Thunder the same way, where he's like, all of a sudden, yeah, I'm leaving, or did he force a trade? Didn't he? I can't
Yeah,
remember.
Paul George was kind of a different situation because we had Chris Paul on that team and we had him, and that was the year we lost to Dame on that 40 footer. Um, it was just, I think that just like fans, sometimes players can sense when like this is the peak of where we could have been, and I feel like Paul George gave it his all, and he wasn't really injured for most of his time in Oklahoma City. So I think that, like, again, I don't think fans hate. Nobody hates Paul George. Like, no one hates Chris Paul either, because we felt like that was a gift to us. Like when New Orleans relocated here for a few years after Katrina, we really fell
Oh
in
God,
love with
yes.
Chris Paul. So him coming back and him leaving to go somewhere else, especially in the state that the team was in at the time, where we weren't really, like, we're not like, oh, Western Conference Finals. Like, that was never in our mind, anyways. There were no expectations, really. With Paul George and Russell and them being together, there were some expectations. We thought, maybe the second round, maybe get to the finals of the Western Conference, but we weren't like banking on it because we had seen the team, perform at its best, and then we had seen the team, perform under where its potential is. And so I don't think our hearts were really broken as much, but I think we all knew when Dame hit that shot that it was over. We were like it's just too demoralizing. It was just, it was just like, what the fuck? Like, I mean, it was just, and it was good defense. Paul George was playing good defense. I mean, Dame just, that's just his. I mean, he's open from the other free throw line, opposing free throw line, and extend. That's his range. I mean, he can shoot that 40-footer like it's a free throw, and most guards these days can do that. And I think that it's one of those things where Paul George being a little older than Dame, I think that you're not exposed to guys just being like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna pull up from 40, like it's nothing, what I mean? And then so he wasn't playing super tight defense, but he still had a hand in the face. He was still there. It wasn't like Dame was wide open. But I think it was just kind of one of those things where it was just like, yeah, this thing is done. Like, I mean, it just felt like it was headed towards that trajectory. And I think if he hadn't left, we wouldn't have seen Russell Westbrook break Oscar Robertson's record. I don't think it would have had any of that stuff happen. And I think we appreciate that a lot more than we appreciate Paul George's time with the Thunder. So, as I said, I like the beef between Russell and KD. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out this year in the playoffs. I think both those teams are really good. I think Kawhi guarding Kevin Durant and Paul George maybe being fully healthy for like the second time this season. This series could go 7, and I would be entertained all 7 games. And but on the same dime, I wouldn't be surprised if it went 5 games and the Clippers only won 1. It just depends on if Paul George is healthy and if the defense of the Clippers can keep Phoenix at bay. But I like the number 2 pick of Russell Westbrook versus Kevin Durant, and I would definitely have it in my top 10, if not top 5, as a Thunder fan of all-time sports beefs. I think that's definitely one, and I don't think there's any love lost between those two. I think we're going to see some talking for sure.
Definitely more ubiquitous one, right? Like the other ones were kind of like the Browns one. I mean, I live in Ohio and I still don't really recognize that one. The KD Russell, pretty recognizable one. So it's one of the first ones I agree with.
So the second number 2 is another one that I love. Reggie Miller versus Spike Lee. This one was epic. I mean, this had grab your nuts, choke it. I mean, it was. When the Pacers played the Knicks, you knew what you were getting into, and it just for me as like an NBA fan, it's like, boy, remember when the Knicks were like really good? Like, I mean, I mean, John Starks, I mean, the Oklahoma State alum. I mean, you love to see, and he wanted no part of those free throws at the end of game whatever it was, where he bricks both of those off the back iron, and Indiana survives. And I think the bigger story here is the fact Reggie Miller never got to be in an NBA Finals. I think that was the bigger story. There was the Knicks still, the 1 year that the Pacers beat the Knicks, it was still just for a chance to play in the Eastern Conference Finals, and then the Pacers lost in that next round. So, and I love the 30 for 30 on it. I think it's a great 30 for 30, and I love this being a number 2 sports beef because I love it, every aspect of it.
And you know what else they did about this one? There's a Seinfeld episode around it, where Kramer is at a Knicks game and him and Spike Lee start fighting or something, and Reggie Miller gets thrown out of the game, and so Jerry wins a bet because the bet was like a 30-point spread. And they're like, oh, of course, without Reggie Miller, the Knicks killed him. And so like there's a whole Seinfeld episode on the contingency of the Spike Lee Reggie Miller feud. And so this one absolutely love and brings back fucking special memories. The Reggie Miller shooting a 3, running down the court, doing this, like, because he was called a choke artist or something by Spike Lee. So he's running down the court, giving him the choke sign and shit, which I don't think you can do in sports. Like, you can't do this anymore in sports. You can't do anything that suggests violent, killing, domestic violence or something like. So it's like just a whole nother era in different times where, that stuff didn't really happen. Somebody in the crowd of a basketball game having some interactions, or, the media at least talking about it, because, now a lot of times it's just like, don't encourage the fans to do it because, there's been enough issues with that going back to the Royals fucking fans that beat up Tom Gamboa. yeah, it's just like this one though, as a part of my childhood too. It was it's burned very brightly into my brain. So now I'm like, what is number one? And like that one would have been probably one of my top, maybe number one, just because of how the magnitude, NBA playoffs and shit. Like it was like getting front page newspapers talking about, showing Spike Lee in the crowd, like pointing out at Reggie, like talking during the games. So this one is, I think, definitely worthy of the spot.
So the first number one they've got is Michael Jordan versus literally anybody, except for his own mother and his security guard James Wozniak. That was the choice, and I don't hate this choice either. I think that everything to Michael Jordan was personal. I think that he had several people in his career that he definitely punked on and had beefs with, and I think that when you talk about Michael Jordan, it's hard not to talk about the people that didn't like Michael Jordan and the fact that Michael Jordan was like, well, fuck them back. You know, what I mean, it was, and I think that's what also made him such like, I hate to use this term because I don't believe it's real, but such an alpha male like type thing. I mean, just
Oh,
and
sure.
I'm like, but when you know, like you're the guy. Like, I mean, and it's one of those things where the reason Michael Jordan pissed off people so much was he was just that good. It's the same reason why I think people get mad at LeBron James these days. Is because it's like, how the fuck do you stop the dude? I mean, it's just annoying because it's like, and I think LeBron was definitely more annoying back, 2012, like 2016. I think that was kind of where, I got annoyed in
With
2012 for
Miami.
sure, when they were playing the Thunder in that
Yeah.
finals, and he just took Kevin Durant to church. But I mean, I think that was, he's a freight train coming down the lane. Yeah, how do you stop him? It's just annoying. Like, you don't hate him because he's a bad player. You hate him because it's like, fuck, there's nothing we can do about this, and he's just that good. And Michael Jordan is the GOAT, and he will always be the GOAT. And I think this just kind of adds to the fact that, like, yeah, he just had a killer mentality, and a just a nonchalant, like, fuck everybody else, I'm the guy kind of attitude. And it wasn't in like a narcissistic ball hog kind of way. It was just like he was just that good. Like, what are you gonna do about it?
Yeah, I mean, some of the stuff that comes out about Jordan and we see in these 30 for 30s is kind of like surprising as a person who watched a lot of it and just as a kid like you didn't see it. A lot of the sports now like LeBron and some of his stuff on court is I think more maybe called out. Maybe it's just the same as Jordan's, it's just they pay more attention to it. But like you never really saw, I don't know, I didn't remember them showing Jordan screaming at people in huddles, but it was happening or in the back. But I don't know, maybe he did it a little more professionally. Maybe there's just a little more polish around Jordan because he did have the ultimate alpha fucking. It was just like, hey man, it's me. I don't care who else is on the court with me. I'm going to win. And like at times in his early career, it was literally him just scoring fucking 60 and scoring to win. But Jordan, his competitiveness and the little bit that I know, just seeing and reading, I think I read one of his biographies a long time ago. His fucking competitiveness, I think, is going to make him rub people wrong uh, all the time, even when he's not trying to. And then it sounded like a lot of times he was actually trying to, just talk shit and beat people down a little. But yeah, I mean, again, one of those people who's so iconic um, you know, in the beast he had on court, like some of the people that he had. I'm trying to think of some of the games where I don't know, like I mean Utah Jazz that finals especially where he dribbles down the court, throws off Byron Russell, and then steps back and hits that three, and he just holds it up there. It's like you're nasty, dude. Like people are gonna want to hate you just because they ain't you. And
Yeah, and that's literally what most of that that's what it was. I think people were just kind of jealous because it was just like, I'm doing the same thing this dude's doing, but he's just that talented. And I think that's just, I mean, that was what made him kind of the ambassador for NBA basketball for the foreseeable future. He put his stamp on NBA history with the fact that he was just that dude, and there was really nobody else that could hold his jockstrap. I think that was just kind of the way it was. The second number one on this list is one that I don't remember, but it's iconic as hell. Tanya Harding versus Nancy Kerrigan. I mean, yeah, it's hard to not bring that up as one of those, because it's just you just remember the screams of Nancy Kerrigan, and just the absolute, just I mean Tanya Harding just serving cunt. I mean, just serving cunt on a platter, and just really just. I mean, I love the competitive nature, but I mean, hiring somebody to beat the legs in on somebody is just a new way. Is that it's beef, assault, and a bunch of other things. Your thoughts? I think it's an obvious top five.
Yeah, I mean, it's beef tartare at that point. It's
Yeah.
fucking pounded. But I guess the only thing or disagreement is just because was it like I don't know well enough, can't remember well enough. Nancy like having a part in the beef, right? Like she was just being herself. You
Yeah.
know, there
Yeah.
there was no real reciprocity where both of them were clashing. It's just one chick who's got some bad people around her who are craving for winning no matter and that's the other part of it is like I don't even know that it was so like going back to the beef, I don't know that there was really personal hatred as much as I want to win. Like, maybe it's all spun up that way that Tanya Harding has spun it in a way where it's like, don't hate me. I'm not evil. I just wanted to win. Maybe I've been brainwashed, but that's my only argument with the beef being rated one is just because I don't know that Nancy really fed into it, and then also Tanya and her personal interactions. I don't really remember them being volatile as much as this was purely financial and success, greed, cheating motivated.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I didn't see the movie that came out about it either. I feel like I would
Yeah,
know more about maybe a personal aspect to it if I had watched the movie that was made about it. I mean, but especially from Tanya's perspective, because I feel like maybe she would have some insight into, like, I didn't just hate this bitch. Like, there was a reason. Like, I mean, and and I think a lot of it was jealousy too. I think, bitches get jealous, and I think it's one of those things where it's like, Nancy was. I think everyone knew was kind of the favorite to do what she did, and I think that Tanya, is as hard as she had worked in her upbringing, I think that she was jealous that Nancy didn't have to go over a bunch of those hurdles, because Tanya really came from more of a lower middle class upbringing, and Nancy was more of like the higher, upper class, not upper class, but like higher middle class, very, very much, I wouldn't say silver spoon, but I'd say probably, a tier below that. I think that was also a part of it. Was Tanya was like, I don't think it's fair that she's had, all this handed to her, and I've had to, claw and fight my way out of a trailer park type shit. I mean, I get that, but I agree with you. I think this is more about Tanya trying to stop Nancy for her own benefit than it was this mutual, like, we fucking hate each other type shit. Now that's the list. That's the list. I'm going to bring up a couple of situations, and you can bring up some too. One that comes to mind is the Indiana Pacers versus Detroit Pistons fans. That's a good one. I like Ron Artest going into the stands. I think that's a beef. I don't think that beef really has has ceased much. I think that put kind of an imprint on at least when those two teams get together. What kind of energy it brings. Your thoughts on that one? That one?
yeah. Malice at the Palace is, of course, the one of the first things I think of, and I mean some of those games like that had been a brewing type thing where there's fans and that makes me start thinking of like some bigger rivalries like where there's probably been sports beefs like Magic versus Bird that wasn't really a beef I guess, right? But like if you think of rivalries,
They were talking shit. There was definitely some
yeah,
shit talking there between those two. Um,
Larry Bird has been called one of the all-time shit talkers, but like a few people and yeah, so I mean it's like I see Malice at the Palace
and that
and
started in
my head,
college too. People forget that started in college. That
yeah.
didn't just start in the NBA. That was a long time coming. I think that deserved to be on the list. I think Magic and Bird not being on the list, probably a crime. I think I could go without Robin Lopez and his mascots for that.
Yeah.
Uh,
And state, yeah, state rivalry, right? Indiana State, Michigan
Yeah.
State. So that makes me start thinking, okay, like Ohio State Buckeyes versus Michigan, like there's probably, Woody versus Bo Schembechler. That's a pretty big sports beef when he went for two when we didn't have to. And like, why'd you go for two? He's like, because I couldn't go for three. Like, that's a beef that, especially where I'm at locally, you know, um, there's probably multiple Ohio State Buckeye rivalries with Michigan that I would harp on before the Robin Lopez mascot, and then Indiana basketball. If you really start looking for like state rivalries and stuff, I'm sure we can find some just like Magic and Bird and
Another
yeah,
one that I was thinking of was the Kings Lakers series in the early 2000s. Those were very violent
Weber.
games. Chris Webber and company, they were pretty good. And the Kings being back in the playoffs for the first time in 16 years, I hope we get a little bit of nostalgia maybe. See if they can meet up at some point. I don't know if they'd have to meet up in the Western Conference Finals, but I'd like to see it. Just for that sake. Randy Moss and him mooning the Packers fans, is that beef? That might be beef, but it might be more of a Vikings Packers beef than Randy Moss versus fans beef. I like that storyline though. Anything else you could think of? I can't really think of really any other ones off the top of my head other than those kind of instances.
I mean, there were some pretty good rivalries in '80s, like the Lakers and the Sixers. Like a lot of people think of the Lakers and Celtics, but I think 79, 80, 81, 83, the Lakers and Sixers played in the finals every one of those years. And so um I think that goes into like some Dr. J and Magic Johnson. Like, I don't know if there's ever beefs. I think I'm going down more towards like historic sports rivalries than actual beefs, but yeah.
Yeah,
I feel
well,
like
so that's our
covered some
take
good ones.
on that. I like going through that list with you. I think it was a very interesting list. I think the first one was probably the funniest one, where Stone Cold Austin is beating up on Vince McMahon. The big thing was, oh, it's really, really, really difficult to see somebody beating up their boss and still being able to keep their job. I'm like, well, I think there might have been a little bit more at play than the reality of that situation, but it was entertaining, for sure. Let's get into this Masters recap, right? So I had an episode I did where I picked Justin Thomas and Victor Hovland as my favorites, to come out on top. Justin Thomas did not make the cut to even play on Sunday, so that pick kind of went down the drain. Victor Hovland finished seventh, but was definitely tied for the lead for the first 2 days, so that wasn't a terrible pick. Um, of course, John Rahm ends up winning the Masters. Brooks Koepka loses his lead throughout Sunday.
Melts it down.
Kind of pulls a Greg Norman and kind of just doesn't finish the job. What were your takeaways from this weekend at Augusta?
Uh, do I look like a guy they let near golf courses? Unless
I
the
said the
pick up the
same thing. I
balls.
said the same thing. I said I'm not a golf guy, but I'll take a couple of swings at this.
My
Uh,
yeah, my interesting take. So I did kind of follow the scores and watch the meltdown by Kepka, and just him completely fade from the lead there. And then the cool thing I guess was the story I saw today about like Rom supposedly had a fortune cookie 10 years ago that said something like your talents will be rewarded, or something to that effect. That when he saw it, whoever he was with, he just immediately said, "I'm going to win the Masters." He still, I guess, had that with him after he won, and I'm like, those are the kind of fucking stories, dude. Like, the story of mental triumph. Like, um, golf is something like I'll watch like the last day, usually the Sunday, and catch up maybe if there's a good hype around the chase and everything, and so I don't have a whole lot of input on this just because I'm so uneducated, but um, it sounds like it was a pretty exciting. I did not see it, but I mean, just the whole story, and then that final day, they were like up until like the back nine, pretty close, right? Like, um, there was some drama there with that you know, last pairing and stuff going out. Um, that's the kind of stuff that will make me watch more golf, right? Like just hearing about that and kind of um, feeling a little more excitement around it. I know the Masters is pretty much the top dog in these events, but um, yeah, getting close to the Memorial, which happens here fairly local, and that's kind of one of the events I'll watch closely because I sometimes go to it. But other than that, that's you got all of my golf knowledge.
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
it.
and I'm kind of in the same boat. I don't really watch on TV that often when it comes to golf. I mean, if, like you said, if it's close or something at the end, I'll turn it on. But I mean, another thing about this was just the rise of Phil Mickelson, right? I mean, he was like down there, right, and he ends up tying for second place, having a great day on Sunday. Now
And the
tying for second
oldest,
place was still, four shots back, but I mean, it was one of those where like, oh, John Rahm could have four putted 18 and still won this thing. Um, so it wasn't, super closed at the end, but that had more to do with Brooks Koepka melting down than it had to do with John Rahm playing out of his mind. Um, yeah, I mean, it was a good weekend. I think the biggest takeaway for me is that the live golf guys did really well. So for all the shit talk that people gave those guys for like, oh, like you just can't compete with the PGA, so you're going over to this live golf thing, like, like fuck you. I mean, you're a Saudi Arabian sympathizer. I mean, I mean, and I think it was just one of those like, no, like we just wanted more money and they were gonna give us more money, and I like money, and and not having to like go to Saudi Arabia and play. Like,
yeah,
I mean, it was just kind of one of those things where it was like, I I I mean, I was just impressed with the fact that I think a lot of those golfers finished in the top 10, 15, and really kind of put the world on notice that live golf is not a joke. It is something that still has top tier golfers in it, and the way they do their presentation and stuff on the CW is a lot better than the PGA does. Like if you watch the matches on the CW for live golf, the scoring, like graphics and stuff, a lot more in depth, a lot better presentation wise. Um, I just think it's one of those things where people just, they put the political aspect behind it a lot, and they're like, I still don't want to watch it, just because it's not the PGA. But I think that this is definitely one of those things where I think people will start to watch it more because you'll have these tournament winners that are not playing in the PGA and are playing in that league instead, and so you're going to want to watch and follow them throughout that, and I think that kind of put a staple on that.
yeah, I appreciate that they're letting them play, and it seemed like a lot of the personal whatever kinds of digs that people were making. I mean, that didn't exist. Like this Masters when it first started, I remember I'm saying like it's been remarkably quiet, really, with regards to that, other than like the Greg Norman thing. He wasn't invited, but um, yeah, and yeah, the other thing with Mickelson, I saw that he was the oldest player to ever finish that high, which I mean, you think of golf as a fairly friendly game for older ages, and so that was one of the takeaways for me was like, he's only 52 or something. Like that was the highest finish by someone his age, but I'm like Arnold Palmer and some of these dudes fucking golfed forever. Like they never Jack Nicklaus, like they had to basically say like he had to tell people stop inviting me. I'm not going to play anymore. But like for somebody to only finish that's the highest for someone that age was a big surprise that I took out of this. And it doesn't surprise me as much now because the driving, right? These guys are more athletes. Since Tiger Woods, really, like these dudes are all swinging it, and
Hmm.
that's the hard part. I think the golf courses have gotten longer. I think I saw that like the Masters is like 800 yards, plays 800 yards longer now than it used to. You get a Jack Nicklaus out there, those older guys. That's the one part of their game where they do show their age and being able to drive. So, just a side note, when I saw that factoid, I kind of mentally made all those connections, and it was kind of made sense, I guess, when I thought about it, but surprising nonetheless.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's also just like the Tiger Woods effect, right? I mean, it just adds to his legacy more. Like it just kind of like how Wilt Chamberlain like changed the game of basketball. Like Tiger Woods changed this game forever because of just him being able to blast it off the tee box. And they were like, this is just too easy for this guy. We got to change this. And we know that as sports go on and stuff that with more sports medicine and more weightlifting and more weight training. I mean, golf was never that game where it's like, yeah, I'm out here just like pumping iron, brother. Like, and And now it's like these guys are in the gym 5 times a week. I mean, they are trying to get that drive range up because they know, like, if I can drive that ball 10, 15 yards further, I mean, that could potentially be the difference between a par and a birdie, or a birdie and an eagle. And that's huge. And I think that, you know, as much of a luxury sport as it was 20 to 30 years ago, now it's more of this competitive, like, it's not leisurely, at this level as much as it used to be as well. I don't think it's just a bunch of these country club kids just, growing up and being good at golf and having that time on their hands. I think it's more of, it's just more in depth to me. I feel like, as far as like grooming a kid to be like a professional golfer and stuff, you see more of that, like, weight training and stuff involved now. So
Definitely more golf teams on the high schools. My school never had one until the 90s, and all of a sudden, hey, like a little farm school, because of Tiger Woods, people are wanting to play the game. There's enough
mhm,
interest for it. But technology too, right? Like,
yeah.
it's not all just dudes' forearms getting stronger. I mean, the balls, the sweet spots on the drivers and the clubs. And I honestly might, again, you're getting all my golf knowledge I have right now, but like my grand take in the future is that the LIV or the Live and PGA, the biggest differences are going to be where they start to make new rules,
Hmm.
and how they either try to appeal to more of the TV audience and they present differently, or the way that maybe they appeal to more of the older seasoned golfers by putting caps on like the golf balls. Like, they've been talking about things that would limit, people from being able to drive at 400 yards,
Yeah,
or
they
they've been
started about
talking about,
changing the ball. Yeah, they said, well, we got this new ball that's got like this dead area where, like, it could limit the drive from like 10 to 15 yards. And obviously
yep,
the golfers are like, fuck that, we don't want that, but it's,
yeah,
and I think fans feel the same way. Like, we like when you yeet the ball 400 yards. I mean, like,
yeah,
fuck this
we
dead ball
fucking
shit.
wanted
I
to
mean,
watch
like,
that.
I mean, I get you're trying to make it more competitive, but it's like, we don't need that to happen. Like, we just need it to be entertaining enough for people like us that are just casual. I wouldn't even say casual. I'd say like semi-casual watchers of this sport to be more interested. So, but yeah, I mean, I think overall, again, Masters is never iconic, never not a good weekend. The fact that it coincides with like the NFL, or sorry, the NBA, like, playoffs getting, rearranged and stuff, I think kind of just cements the ending of like a sports season for a lot of people, in the beginning of, baseball, really. I mean, I think it's kind of a launch pad for people to kind of get back into the viewing of maybe not as, fast-paced sporting events being the main focus. Um, but speaking of NBA playoffs, let's it's here, right? It's here. Let's get into it. Let's go ahead and just talk about these play-in games, right? So tomorrow, um, and Wednesday, we've got play-in mania happening. Tomorrow we have the Hawks and the Heat, and the Timberwolves and the Lakers. Um, Go ahead and tell me what you think about the Hawks and the Heat, and if Trae Young and company can squeak by Miami, or if Miami's gonna cement themselves into a play-in spot, a playoff spot.
I mean, this is that danger spot. I feel like where the Hawks, usually do their best work. They come from that late spot. I don't know if they can make it. The last year or two, were they a 7 seed when they
Yeah,
last
they
two
yeah
seasons?
they've been in the playoffs the last. I think this is their first play-in game that they've been in the last couple of
Yep.
seasons, because they've had like that bottom 7, 8 seed type thing where they lose in like 5 or 6 games to whoever they're playing in the playoffs. But
Yep.
but this is, one of those like NCAA tournament type atmospheres where it's like, you win, you're in; you lose, you go home.
Exactly. Yeah, and that, I mean, I feel like they've been in that spot before, so they're kind of dangerous, and it's not. I think it's not above them to be able to do it, but the Heat. I'm a big fan of Jimmy Butler. Spoelstra's done it before. Tyler Hero has been playing, at a higher level. Duncan Robinson always seems to show up. I don't know
Yeah,
if
is
he's
he
just
healthy? Is Duncan Robinson
healthy. Yeah,
healthy?
I
Okay.
haven't seen him play lately, so I might be. But I mean, that team. I mean, I don't know, like all the names on it: Kevin Love, fucking Kyle Lowry, Oladipo. Cody Zeller's not bad. Max Struss is probably my favorite dude. I just
Yeah.
love, like, the guys come out of nowhere, kind of, to be fairly
From Michigan,
legit.
right? The Michigan guy.
Is he a Michigan guy?
Yeah,
Great.
I think he was a Michigan Wolverine.
Uh, yeah, I don't know. I can still cheer for him, I guess.
Yeah.
But I, just looking at all that together, and then I think he went to Illinois or
No,
DePaul. Yeah,
no,
Max Struss went to DePaul.
really?
Yep.
Oh,
And so,
I'm thinking of Nick Stauskas. That's who I'm thinking of.
yeah,
That's who I'm
I
thinking
would
of.
not have allowed myself to come on here and say I like him, but um, yeah, DePaul. You don't people don't hate on DePaul too often
No,
since they're not
no,
really.
no. Not the
uh,
demons. Not the demons.
yeah.
Um,
The '80s were a good year for DePaul. I mean, you can go down that list, but um, no, I just think that there's too much talent, too much playoff experience there with Spolstra, and the Heat. I just feel like there might be a better team. I don't see any Trey Young magic this year.
yeah.
I just,
Eric
just don't know if the
Spoelstra
team
and
has it like that.
definitely a good coach. I mean, the Heat are favored by 5. I think it's a fair line. I think they could win by more than that. I mean, the Hawks have been playing better recently, but they go as Trey Young goes, and he led the league in assists again this year. He's the top distributor in the league. Great passer. It was one of the most underrated things that he brought to the table when he played at OU, and he's very much translated that into a positive aspect of his game as an NBA player. I think the scoring comes and goes kind of with him. I know that he can drop a quiet 35 on any given night. Um, but I think if he doesn't get help from other areas of that roster, I think that they're in big trouble, and it's on the road. So I mean, it's not going to be easy for them. I think the Heat probably get the dub as well. I agree. Timberwolves, Lakers 7-point favorites here, 7.5-point favorites. They're on the upswing. LBJ looking good. Um, Healthy unit. And like we said earlier, Timberwolves kind of in not a so good spot mentally probably right now. Is another 24 hours enough time to try to sweep this under the rug? And I think the biggest takeaway is just the lack of Jaden McDaniels being on the floor. Maybe I mean he's not a huge part of that team, but he's a young buck that has a high upside, and breaking his hand the way he did, which gets him in the tier of Amari Stoudemire and others that have punched fire extinguishers and punched things after games that have led them to not being able to play. Um, I have no problem having the Lakers easily get by the Timberwolves.
Yeah, I mean, even if that's a Timberwolves all-time great team, I mean, unless Kevin Garnett and fucking Christian Laettner or maybe Isaiah Ryder, Doug West, I don't know.
Wally
Unless I
Zerbiak,
see
give me Wally
Yeah,
Zerbiak.
Stephon Marbury, I mean, unless those people are on that team, I don't think they're beating the Lakers right now
No.
because just it's that time of the year. It's Timberwolves in the playoffs. I mean, the Lakers playing good and having LeBron on it makes me say yes even more. But I don't know. It could be anybody in that playing game in this time of year. If I see the Timberwolves, I'm probably not too confident on them winning. And just with all the things that you described, there's too much stuff happening that's negative. That team, I don't think anybody who said was going to scrape into a play in when they brought in Gobert, and you're like, okay, Conley, Torian Prince is one of those guys who I had to remember he was in the league the other day
Yeah.
because when he was with the Hawks, he was kind of up and coming. I don't really see a whole lot. And then, I mean, Carl Anthony Towns every year seems to find a way to fucking disappear. Um, Anthony Edwards, I still question is like, is he able to really take a team over the hump? He's solid, he's good, but I mean, who's he going to be guarded by in this? Is he going to have to guard LeBron? I mean, I don't know. Like, that's they always talk about people having that defensive load, being able to do anything on offense. I'm not sure who gets matched up with
Anthony
LeBron.
Edwards has to be huge for them. There's no Anthony Edwards has to carry the Timberwolves if they're going to have a chance.
Yeah, I agree, and it's just so many things have to go right that with LeBron, I think he's also got pressure from what 2 seasons of not being in the playoffs even. Like it's like, hey, he needs to in his mind, I feel like I act like I know LeBron, but I'm like in his personal drive, I think it's killing him right now that he's been irrelevant. and so that's weighing on him. And this team seems to be clicking, and everybody's fairly healthy for the first time, really since Lakers and Anthony Davis and all of them got together. It seems. Um, I just feel like the Lakers will finally make some noise in the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree. So right now we're both taking the Heat. We're both taking the Lakers. Let's move to another Eastern Conference matchup for playing. There's Bulls and the Raptors. Raptors favored by 5 here in this playing game. Your thoughts on this one? Because I kind of like the Bulls and Zach LaVine to kind of get this job done, and squeak in there. I like Pascal Siakam. I like what the Raptors bring to the table, but I just think that sometimes LaVine can be a little bit much to handle. If he has a big night, I feel like this game might come down to the wire. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm agreeing. The Bulls, I mean, are definitely the team where I see that the potential and their ceiling being a little higher. The Raptors have had some success, and since Kawhi left, they've kind of fizzled a little. And Kyle Lowry, like all those names, people that you remember, are kind of gone, except for Siakam and Fred Van Fleet are still there. But it's kind of a different team. I don't know that with OG, some of those dudes like Toronto can play the defense. I'm looking at their roster right now, and I'm like, Thad Young, is Thad Young playing for them like regular minutes? Because no, he's not. Because I'll go hard for anybody that's playing Thad Young still after he's been in the fucking league for 20 plus years. But I don't know. I may disagree with you after thinking through the Raptors and some of the defense there. Maybe this time of year, it's that right formula versus the Bulls, but it's going to be a good one to watch for sure. I This is one where I would probably not bet money. I just can't. I
Yeah,
talk
I
about one and I start talking out the other side of my mouth, like, yeah, the Bulls are good and the Raptors and
I mean that's how I feel about it. I feel like this is a pick 'em. I don't feel like this 5 point spread is small enough. I mean it is a road game for the Bulls. Raptors will be in Toronto, so um that's probably where most of those points are coming from is the home court advantage and just the way the Bulls play on the road opposed to playing at home. Um, but I think this is a pick 'em too. I think either of these teams winning this game would not surprise anybody. And it'll definitely be one of those ones to watch around 6 o'clock tomorrow. So I'll definitely be paying attention from the host stand at work. And the second one, the nightcap, is a Western Conference playing game between the Thunder and the Pelicans. The Pelicans are favored by 5 points in this one. Brandon Ingram and company trying to end the Thunder season, and I don't think it will end. I think Shea Gilgeous-Alexander is going to go off for probably 40 plus. I think Josh Giddey is going to have a good game. I think the biggest thing that the Thunder need to do is get Jalen Williams going, the young guy out of Santa Clara. I think he's got to get going if they're going to try to squeak by this, because I don't think Brandon Ingram and company is going to be an easy out either. I mean, CJ McCollum and them are a good duo, tough to stop. Obviously, not having Zion on the court helps the Thunder a crap ton. Um, what are your thoughts on this game and the Pelicans being favored by 5?
yeah, that's another pick 'em for me. I really like the way the Thunder team's coming together, and Shea, I mean, that dude's been going off all year, so I don't see it stopping now. But the Pelicans interest me because Zion wasn't there for a big part of it, and I think that team is maybe a little better than their record. McCollum is a solid shooter. I like him. Ingram too. I don't know. It's just like a little bit more star power. That Pelicans team. There's a little more mystery for me because a lot of the season was spent with Zion hurt, and then McCollum was traded this year. Has he been with them since last year? I can't.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I'm fucking brain
yeah,
dead.
no, you're
But
good. Yeah, no,
um,
yeah, he's been there. This is his second year, I think.
second year with them. I was gonna say I just feel like all of those pieces got a little more experience. They've been around a little bit longer, and that might be the edge versus the Thunder in this one.
Trying to see. All right, so previous games between these two teams, Thunder and Pelicans here. So last one was March 11th. The Thunder won that game by 14. February, the Pelicans won by 3. That was without Shea Gilgeous-Alexander on the floor. And then in December they played again, and that game went into overtime, and the Pelicans won by 3 again, 128 to 125. So again, like you said, being a pick'em, not surprising. These two teams have been going at it all season long, and it's been back and forth. Obviously, the Pelicans up 2-1 in the series, but I mean, not with Shea on the floor. So I mean, you have to kind of factor the fact that the one time they played with them on the floor, they won by 14. So I mean, like, which, it depends on which, Thunder team shows up. Obviously, having Shea on the floor is a huge asset. And I don't know if Brandon Ingram and CJ McCollum are on the floor for the Pelicans in the 2 3-point wins. I know they were in March when Shea played and the Thunder won by 14. So I mean, it just kind of depends, right? I mean, this is another. I mean, I think Wednesday night is going to be just pick'em night, right? I mean, you have these two games where the outcomes are just not as really clear cut as tomorrow, where you have the Heat that should take care of the Hawks and the Lakers that look like they're for sure going to take care of the Timberwolves. I mean, maybe the easiest out of the 4 is probably the Lakers Timberwolves game to really say, well, probably the Lakers are going to get the job done. And if they don't, the questions that will arise from that will be ginormous.
Yeah.
So
if the Lakers can't beat the T-Wolves without Gobert, who can they beat, right? You got to blow it up. At that point, the whole team needs to be.
Yeah.
Like, I'll root for that to happen, I guess.
So Saturday, though, we actually get like the series started with the established teams. Here's the Saturday and Sunday lineups here. We have only one matchup on Sunday, but we have 3 going on Saturday. You got Nets and the 76ers at game 1 in Philadelphia. Philly favored by 8 there. Again, Brooklyn without Kyrie, without Durant, without James Harden. Mikal Bridges has been playing fantastic since that trade took place. He's going to be the guy for Brooklyn. Spencer Dinwiddie, also a huge part of that offense and defense, really. He's one of the best two-way players probably in the league right now, and people don't really talk about him enough, to be honest. I think that this series could be a lot tighter than people think. A lot of people have this going 5, maybe 6 games. I could see that happening, but I could also see Brooklyn winning this first game and kind of waking up the giant that I think the 76ers are, because I think they are an Eastern Conference Finals caliber team. I don't think they're going to lose this series, but I think early on Brooklyn's going to put them on notice and maybe take one of these games at home from the 76ers. Your thoughts?
Yeah, the Sixers are real vulnerable looking, I feel like, and the Nets team, they've got some guys on there that I think will definitely be able to squeeze out a win. Or just guys like Patty Mills or somebody that comes out of nowhere, a Seth Curry, these guys that can shoot, and just one of those guys has a big game versus the guys that you expect, like Mikal Bridges and Dinwiddie. Just one of those guys I think can get them and steal a win, because it just always seems like every year the Sixers are kind of sleepwalking into games. Something, I don't know, never registers with me with them as being a championship contender, even though Embiid's playing one of his greatest years. Something doesn't let me believe in them wholeheartedly, and so I can definitely see the Nets complicating this. I don't know if they're good enough to steal it though.
I think that the 76ers are going to get the shit beat out of them. Like physically by the end of this series. I think they're going to advance, but I think that it's going to be a grueling first round for the 76ers. So I look forward to the talk about whether or not Doc Rivers needs to leave, whether or not Joel Embiid needs to find a way out. If things get hairy here in the first round for the 76ers, which I could see happening. And the other part of that, in my opinion, is the lack of James Harden's offensive production, right? I mean, ever since he left the Rockets, it's just been this. If it was a stock price, you should have sold earlier, because it's just not worth much right now. And I think if he doesn't show up, and kind of revert back to the old Rockets James Harden, not even fully, but like to a little bit of an extent. I think that, as you said, that this is one of the most vulnerable looking top seeds that we've seen, and them getting past the second round is another discussion depending on who they play. But I feel like that could be night for the 76ers depending on how this series goes. So I think I'm very much looking forward to that noon tip off. Um, for that one, I'll definitely be locked in. Um, so let's talk about the second game on Saturday, the Knicks and the Cavs. The Cavs 6-point favorites at home. Donovan Mitchell and Garland and company looking to host Julius Randle and the boys from NYC. Um, I think the Cavs are one of the best teams in the playoffs. I think that Donovan Mitchell is one of the best players in the league right now. Obviously, for me personally, I think he's top 5 in the league right now, the way he's been playing. And I think the Cavs probably win this series in 5 games. I don't think the Knicks really have enough to hang with them. What are your thoughts?
I agree. The Cavs I think are on paper much better. The Knicks, I mean, Julius Randle, he's one of those guys where I feel like he disappears at times, right? Like his numbers look gaudy, and then there'll be games. I mean, it's more like 40 one night, 10 one night, and his average is 25. But one of those games is clearly different, and one of those games he might have lost when he scored 40. The Cavs are also built in a way where front court, right? Like Julius Randle's not necessarily a big man, and the Cavs got size with the Mobleys and Jared Allen. I just feel like this team's a matchup problem because you got to deal with all that, and then people slinging it from the outside and dribble drives and all that stuff. Like that team is just a matchup problem for a lot. And yeah, when you look at the Knicks, when there's a team that's heavy on the bigs, and you look at the Knicks, I'm looking at their roster right now, and it's there's one center that plays, or Jericho Sims plays a fair amount, but you know, Jericho Sims or fucking Mitchell Robinson, are those guys physically going to be the ones that can match up with that good front court from the Cavs? I don't think they can do it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's I think that's a big problem. I think size is going to really play a thing here, and I think it's not going to be in favor of the Knicks. I think as I said, I think this series goes maybe 6. We'll see how game 1 goes, but I think the Cavs being favored by 6, I don't have a problem with it, and I think they'll probably take care of business at home. And then you have the nightcap, which early nightcap for Saturday, but people got church the next day. Yeah, think about it. You have one of the most interesting first round matchups besides the Sunday game. It's the Warriors and the Kings, right? So locally, obviously a big thing going on. The Warriors are favored by 1 on the road in Sacramento. Again, I feel bad for the Kings, right? Because you don't really draw a favorable matchup in this first round with a Golden State team that I feel like is just kind of hitting their stride right now, which is not good. If you're looking at from the outside shooting perspective of Jordan Poole and Steph and Clay, and if all those guys get going from 3, I think that De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis are not going to be enough for the Kings to get past this. I like the Warriors in this series, unfortunately. And I like them disposing of the Kings in probably 6 games. I think a 4-2 Warriors series is going to send the Sacramento Kings packing for the first time in 16 years. They get in and they swiftly get out. What is your takeaway here?
Warriors are still the Warriors, right? In the Kings, it's a good story. It's a team I want to see win, but should they win? And this team, I think, has even been admitted to by people as like there was salary cap dumps, like Harrison Barnes and guys who were just still hanging around on the team, and then they became competitive. Um, I like Demonis, Sabonis, love his father and all of that, but it's I'm not sure his time to be an NBA playoff like stud. I just can't see that playing out like that. And then this Warriors team is the defending champs, right? And um, all these guys are healthy. The team I don't think is the same team that earned them basically a 500 record. I think that they're a lot better right now, and yeah, they've got the experience too. The Kings haven't been in the playoffs in what 20 almost 20 years, and then the Warriors are the defending champs. That by itself, I think, is the mental edge will get them over.
Yeah, I just I think being there before plays a huge part. And like I said, I think having a team that won it last year and being the first round draw is kind of a thing for Sacramento fans. But having playoff basketball in Sacramento going to be fun. I think the Kings do win probably. Um, they might win the first two games at home, but that might be it. And have the Warriors favored in game one, I don't have a problem with. I mean, this is a pick 'em. They have it at just -1, so I don't have a problem with that. Um, I might take the Kings in this first one just because I think the emotion and the energy in that building is going to be ridiculous, and I think that it's one of those things where it just seems like at least grab the first one, right? Grab the first one, maybe lose the next two, and then maybe grab one on the road before you come back home to maybe lose one more. I mean, it just part of me is like, oh, I agree with you, Hot Rod. I think that this is gonna be Warriors, 4-2 or 5-1, but the more I think about it, it's just like the way that the Sacramento Kings have gotten to the position they're in, right? It's been hard nosed defense and production from the main three guys they've got on that roster, and if they keep that formula going, the consistency of the Kings is what has gotten them here. The Warriors have been up and down. They've lost to teams they shouldn't have lost to. They've had nights where they haven't played well. They've had injuries throughout this season that have made them, where they're at now, which is not at the top of the Western Conference and in the bottom half. Um, so there are still kind of question marks. Is Draymond Green as good as he was 2 years ago? No. Is Steph as healthy as he's been in his career? No. Is Clay been playing well recently? Yes, but all season, no. I mean, I think it just kind of depends on what kind of Warriors team we get. But I think, like most people, playoff basketball is different than regular season basketball. These guys really do kind of crank it up a notch, and to say they don't is, I think, a misinterpretation of what this league is, which is an 82 game league where you can't go 110% every night. It's just not worth it for you to do that. And now it becomes worth it every night to literally put your body on the line. This is where we see some of these gruesome injuries because these guys are literally out here, snatching ankles and going airborne and landing on people, and there's just no really regard for your bodily safety because you're already here to this point. There's this is it. And I think that a lot of players are wanting to take more risks in that area of being more physical and asserting their will a little bit more. So we'll see, but I think the series is going to be super fun. The fact that there's not a lot of traveling going on between these two places is also super fun because you have that local rivalry aspect to it. And I'm looking forward to just seeing the Kings back in the playoffs and seeing that atmosphere in Sacramento.
Absolutely. Yep. I think Gary Payton Jr., him coming back, um, that Warriors team, I haven't seen enough of them with him back to see like how easily they're, kind of getting back into that rotation and
Yeah.
everything. But that I think is the kind of the outlier here is, you know, so much of the season he wasn't there, and now this Warriors team feels complete.
Yeah, so tough for the Kings, but I think it's still a fun series and one that I'll definitely be locked into. Sunday is the last one we've got going on this week. It's the Clippers and Suns. Suns favored by 7.5 over the Clip show. Um, if Paul George is healthy, this series is one of the best series of the Western Conference. Still big question marks on whether or not he'll be able to go game one. Your takeaways from this series, Russell versus KD, all that stuff.
This is the series for me. Honestly, think whoever wins this is a favorite in the West. I really think that Memphis being a 2 seed, Denver being a 1, like I don't 100% see them as un unshakable teams at all. And so it's like LA. they've got Westbrook, who wasn't with them for a lot of the season. The team's records are just, I don't think, showing what the real teams are. It's kind of a almost I don't know, misguiding with all these games. And Memphis, Sacramento's records a little bit lopsided compared to Golden State's. And then Phoenix with Durant there, I don't care what their record was before. I mean, that's a decent team now. It's dangerous, and they were already good. So, my pick there is that Phoenix is going to win. But I honestly think whoever wins this series is probably your Western Conference champs.
Yeah, I feel better about the Suns than I do the Clippers. Um,
For sure.
only because of Paul George's health. Like that's the only thing. If he's not playing, the Clippers might get swept here. I mean, it just depends, right? Like if he's back and he's looking like the PG of a couple of years ago, I feel like obviously that gives this series a little more oomph. I mean, I feel like that's kind of the key here. And we'll see. I mean, if he doesn't play game one and they lose by 15, I'm okay with that because he's not on the floor. If he's on the floor and it's that bad, then yeah, I think the Suns are probably going to run away with at least that series. I like the Nuggets a lot. They were my preseason pick to come out of the West. Um, my my preseason picks for the East was the Nets, so I don't know if that's gonna happen. But that was a different time, They had some assets there they don't have anymore. So,
What if you
but
bet on them? Could you imagine at the beginning of the season betting that Brooklyn wins it all, and then they do all this, and then they somehow still win?
that would yeah. Because right now, I mean, you take the odds for the finals right now. Um, and if you were to take the Nets, I mean, you're looking at plus 60,000 right now.
They're probably the favorites when you picked them to win, right?
I think they were the fourth favorite team to win the finals when I picked them. I think it was, I think it was GSW and Phoenix and Philly was up there, and the Celtics were up there, and the Bucks. I think those were the top. I don't. Well, the Suns probably were like fifth or sixth. I think the Suns and the Warriors switched because KD arrived, and I think they jumped. But I think it was Bucks, Celtics, 76ers, and then you had the Nuggets up there as well as the top four when the season started. Um, I can actually go back and look at this. I have my journal here. I can look here.
Just imagine the emotions though. Like if you at the beginning of the season you see those odds and you're like, hey, Brooklyn's got all the pieces, and you go hog wild betting on it, and then they disassemble it all, and then you're looking at it like, I mean, you still got that bet ticket. It hasn't been cashed yet, and then the Brooklyn Nets get into the playoffs here. If they somehow won it all, I would like to see a documentary over the person whose life changed, and then like they lost it all basically in their mind. Depending, I mean, somebody had to have put a serious chunk on this game, and they're probably going to lose it. But if they had won, if the Nets somehow make this miracle happen,
Yeah, I
that's
mean it was yeah, those were the picks though, and so I still like the Nuggets a lot. I think they bring a lot to the table. We'll obviously talk about that a little bit more when their series gets underway, when they figure out who they're playing. Um, but yeah, I think that's kind of the rundown that we have right now, and I'm just looking forward to this thing getting started tomorrow and talking more about it with you next week. Um, so let's hop into the final segments here. We'll hit up the sports book here, um, and get our picks going. So once again, we will go ahead and we will give our first pick of this will be going to the XFL because I love the XFL to the extent that most people don't, and that's enough to even put it on this show. So if we look at these lines here, boy, they are hiding these from me pretty good.
I was gonna say I have
Uh,
to go on the dark web to even get scores for the XFL.
right? It's rough for the XFL. Here we go. Football XFL. because the XFL playoffs are about to start.
Shit, you got your tickets?
Right? I mean, that's gonna be a fun one. Um, I can't fucking find it.
There are no XFL teams that are like even close enough to around here. Because a long
I just
time
have.
ago, I was, flirting with the idea of trying out, and I'm like, they're not even around Ohio, so
Yeah, I'm not seeing where the line's at now. DraftKings is not even showing it on here. I literally don't see it.
yeah. When I was on ESPN last week, I had to go to like the furthest down on their menu. When you do the scores, like the scoreboard, there's a toggle down, and it's not the lowest anymore. It's actually moved up, but ESPN's definitely moving things. I don't know if they saw the last podcast where I complained about it and they changed it because this powerful podcast gets stuff done.
It's true. What we do here? Let's see. Let's see. Uh,
There's some real dog shit games, it looks like, this week.
yeah, I mean,
1-7 versus 2-6.
yeah, where are we at now? We're at week 8, right? Week 8. All right, week 9. All right, well, um, Vipers and Roughnecks, Guardians and Brahmas. Where are the spreads on these games? I don't see them.
I don't see spreads either.
Let's see if I can finagle this. There it is. I found it. I had to literally go into like the URL of DraftKings and replace NFL with XFL in the URL to let it make it pop up because they did not have it on the menu, and now it's showing it on the menu underneath the football tab when it wasn't there literally 2 seconds ago. All right, so
They're
getting
watching the
getting back into
podcast.
this one. So Vipers and Roughnecks. Roughnecks favored by 6.5. You have the Brahmas favored by 1.5 over the Guardians. And then on Sunday, you have the DC Defenders, 8.5-point favorites over the Renegades. And the Sea Dragons are actually a 1-point underdog against the Battle Hawks on Sunday. So go ahead and give me your XFL insights since, you are undefeated picking XFL games.
Oh yeah. I mean the Roughnecks won last time they played against San Antonio. Is that who they're playing?
No, the Roughnecks are playing the Vipers. The Guardians are playing San Antonio. Orlando is.
Yeah, the Vipers are dog shit. I don't know a whole lot about XFL because you have to go on the goddamn dark web to get stats or, even see the rosters for these people. And so, what I do know though is that the Vipers have had a lot of problems scoring touchdowns, and I feel like they are playing one of the better teams with the Roughnecks. And I mean, there is the element of maybe they're resting people or something that could be somehow sketchy. What was the spread?
The spread for the Vipers and Roughnecks. Roughnecks by a touchdown, 6.5.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's really tricky to try and predict because I don't know their playoff situation if there's um
So
because
the
everybody's
playoffs
pretty
don't
much
start until the
live.
29th. So
Okay, so they're
they
not
shouldn't be
locked
they shouldn't
yet.
be resting anybody yet.
Yeah, they've clinched a playoff spot, but they're not resting people, so I feel good with the Roughnecks.
Okay. How much out of your 265 you want to put on that one?
Jesus, man. Not that much this week. About 65.
65. Okay, so that'll give you even 200 for the rest of them. For my first XFL pick, um, I'm gonna go with the Brahmas minus the 1.5 against the Guardians. The Guardians lost by 2 to the Roughnecks over the weekend, and I picked the Renegades +1. So that was a winner for me last week. But unfortunately, for the Guardians, the downward spiral will continue for them as I am picking San Antonio minus a point and a half versus Orlando. And I'm going to put 85 on that one out of so I'll leave myself with 200 as well for the rest. So moving on to the NBA, right? I mean, we have to go in with our play-in games here. So go ahead and give me your first one here.
I'll bet it all on the Lakers. I don't know
All
if I'm
right, like LAL minus 7.5 versus Minnesota. How much you want to put on that one?
well, I know it's NBA basketball, so spreads are funky. I'll only put 100 on that.
Okay.
I won't bet at all.
All right. So 100 on the Lakers. My first play-in game, I'm gonna go with. I mean, I can't help myself. I'm going with the Thunder +5 against the Pelicans. I know it's a homer move, but I just think that not having Shea on the floor for a bunch of those games where they got together, I think having him on the floor makes all the difference. And I think the Thunder give us another treat because we didn't even see them getting this far. And I think the reason that they made the push was the fact that they knew that they were out of the Wemby race for sure, and getting into the play-in game only lessened their chance of getting that number one pick by a percentage and a half. So I think it was like, what's not to lose here? Let's go ahead and try to at least make the play-in and then see where it goes from there. I think the Thunder are ready to give this town a series again in the playoffs, and that's only after a 2-year drought. They've been in the playoffs every single year other than that. So, well, since 2010. So I mean, I think that's going to be their prerogative. I'm going to put 50 on this one and go with the home OKC +5 over New Orleans on Wednesday. So second play-in game for you, sir. Go ahead and spill the beanies.
So I'm looking at Hawks Heat possibly. Oh shit. Yeah, I like the Hawks Heat better. Feels like the Heat is a lock for me. Trying to see what the spread was on it.
Heat -5.
-5. Yeah, it seems. I mean, I just think that team is better, and then Spolestra, and then they're playing at home too, so pretty confident on that.
How much we laying down, brother?
How many more picks after this? I got
You
50
got two
bucks
more
left, right?
after this. Yeah, this is the bottom three we're in right now.
Put half of whatever I have left on
Okay,
this.
so 55 down. You got 100 left, so 50 on that one. So that'll leave you with 25 apiece on the last two. Is that what you want to do with the last two, no matter what it is?
Yeah, pretty much.
Put 25 on the last two. Okay. And yep, that puts you there. Heat -5. Lock it in, he says. My second playing game, I am going to go with. You know what? I'm going to go with another underdog. Give me the Bulls. Give me the Bulls +5. Like, even if they lose, I think this is going to be a close one against Toronto. I think I'm confident enough to put another 50 on this one. I just think that the Zach LaVine probably goes off for 40 plus, but they're going to need him to if they're going to want to stay in this. I like the defense, like you said, of Toronto and what they bring to the table. I just like the offensive firepower of the Bulls a little bit more. So even if I mean, look, I still win if they lose by 1, if they lose by 3. But give me the Bulls +5 in my second one. So for your third one, we'll go ahead to the real playoffs that are already starting here. Give me one of your games. You want to go with your Cavs, or what are you feeling like right now?
I mean, I feel pretty strong that the Suns are a favorite, but yeah, I'm more confident in that than the Cavs. Cavs at home though? Yeah, I gotta go with my homers. Let me do Cavs for sure. I just don't know about them covering the spread, but I feel confident at home. they'll take care of at least game one. I'm confident they'll win that series eventually. But then, yeah, the other one, I'll just let me, you make your pick, and I'll think about this one because I do think the Suns are my favorite. Feel confident they're my favorite to win the West. I just don't know. I don't know. 7 points. That's where I'm wrestling with on
Yeah,
that one.
that's what made me say I would have picked the Cavs game over that one, just because I think the Clippers might cover that spread with the Suns, just because I mean, but it depends if PG plays or not. If he doesn't play, I think that spread's accurate. If it's going off of him not playing, if the spread is going off him not playing, I like it. If it's going with him playing, I don't like it. Um, for my number 4 pick here, I am gonna go with give me Golden State minus the 1. I like Golden State minus 1 versus Sacramento. Have them probably winning game 1 here. Put another 50 on that one. Last pick. Yes, I think the Warriors are coming into their own right now, and I think that it's kind of time for them to assert their dominance and protect their championship from last season. Have you selected the Cavs, or are we?
Did I thought I selected Cavs once, didn't I? How many have I picked?
This is
I,
4. The last one will be a MLB, because we
okay.
love baseball. Um,
I I like the Warriors plus or the Warriors just won. I do think the Kings can win a playoff game or so in this series, but their first one, I don't know. I don't. That one seems more likely to me than when I was wrestling with taking the Suns -7 instead of taking the Suns. I want to copy your lead and go with the Warriors.
okay, so Warriors minus 1 for you as well here. All right.
Same dollars. St0ner bucks.
All right. So last one we'll go with the MLB. Love the MLB. We're not doing too bad with baseball. We've been kind of up and down. Both last time we didn't do well. We both missed. But hey, it's all about getting up and trying again. All right, that's what this is about right now. So let's take a look here. We got some games today. That are going on. We got Yankees, Guardians. We got Astros, Pirates, Oakland, and the Orioles. We got Marlins playing the Phillies, Red Sox, Rays, Padres, Mets, Reds, and Braves. Got a bunch of them today. Giants, Dodgers, big local rivalry there. Diamondbacks, Brewers, Angels, Nationals, Rockies, Cardinals, Rangers, Royals, Cubs, and Mariners. Go ahead and select a game and tell me what you want to do. Your last $25, because all these spreads are a run and a half.
Yeah, they're all running a half. Okay. I don't know. I think the Phillies are due to win. After watching them, the bad luck they had against the Reds just this last series, 3-6. That team's definitely better than 3-6. They're 2-1 at home. They're back at home, and so I feel like that's the move here. Phillies.
Phillies over the Marlins. All right. Phillies minus 1.5 versus the Miami Marlins. All right. And for my last pick, I am going to do what everybody tells me to do, which is pick against the Reds. We're going with the Braves minus a run and a half against the Reds. So we're going to go Atlanta minus 1.5 versus the Reds for my last 50. And that will do us for our top 5 picks. Now, which of these 3 out of yours are you going to put down for your locks this week, my friend?
Oh, I don't remember what I picked here.
So you got Houston Roughnecks -6.5. You got the Lakers -7.5. Heat -5. You got Golden State -1, and the Phillies -1.5. Which three are we rolling with this week?
Thinking the NBA picks, Lakers and Heat. Yeah, I don't know about that XFL game at all. That last week I was real good, feeling real good. I knew who their quarterback was. I can't even figure out who quarterbacks are. So I guess we'll ride with the Phillies. I hate the idea of that, but
we're rolling with the Phillies. All right, Phillies -1.5. All right, for my three, I'm gonna go with. I am gonna go with the XFL game. I'm gonna go with the San Antonio Brahmas minus the 1.5 against Orlando. I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna go ML. I'm gonna go with my MLB game team. I'm gonna go with Atlanta over the Reds here, and
see, I would feel confident. I'm a Reds fan. You know, I've seen the worst of it. The pitcher they've got going tonight is actually one of our better ones. So Overton last night, not good.
You like Ashcraft a lot.
Ashcraft's pretty good, yeah.
Well, we'll see. I mean, I just I like the Braves. I mean, it's hard. It's hard. I saw them play last night. I thought they played pretty decent. I forget what that score was from last night, but I think it was pretty gaudy, was it not? They were somebody was beating up on somebody really bad last night. I can't remember who it was. Reds beat the Phillies last night 6-4. That doesn't bode well for me. Where was that game at?
4 runs in the last inning.
Oh yeah, the Braves got absolutely destroyed by the Padres 10-2. So, but the Padres are really good. The Padres might be one of the best teams out west. So that doesn't really. I mean, both of those teams are 6-4 regardless of that. So, I mean, but yeah, the Reds played well against the Phillies. They're 4-4, so they might. That was a comeback win too last night, so I think that's a big boost to the Reds. I'm scared now, but we'll see what happens.
It was a comeback win the night before that too.
Yeah, they've been coming from behind like it's prison or something. And
but not quite as alpha in this case.
Yeah. And for my last pick, I think I'm gonna go with OKC. OKC plus the 5, versus the New Orleans Pelicans, and that'll do it for this week's episode. So stay tuned for next week. We'll catch up on all the NBA action. We'll get you going as these series start to form this week. Hot Rod, always a joy to have you on, my friend. Great discussion. Ran a little longer than normal, but I figured it would with all the stuff going on. So appreciate everybody who listened to the end. I know we kind of expelled on the beef maybe a little bit too long, but I like my beef long and I like it hard. So there you go. You got all the content. Hot Rod, anything else you want to add before we get out of here?
Yeah, cook the beef slow, and my pleasure being here, bud. Appreciate it again, and yeah, always a joy.
All right, well, keep stick on the ice, and for Will Warner and Hot Rod, we will see you all next week.